Gentlemen, listen closely because what I'm about to share with you may surprise you and perhaps even change the way you think about your own body. At your age, one single mistake made in the quiet moments right after masturbation can do more harm than most men realize. It can silently weaken erections, lower testosterone, and even increase the risk of prostate problems. I've seen men lose years of vitality not because of age itself, but because they ignored this vulnerable window. That's how serious it is. My name is Dr. Jonathan Prescott. I am a professor of urology and a men's health specialist. For more than 30 years, I've dedicated my life to helping men protect their testosterone, preserve their erections, and enjoy intimacy well into their senior years. I've treated thousands of men over 60, and I can tell you with absolute certainty, the difference between staying strong or slipping into decline often comes down to what you do immediately after release. Now, here's the paradox that so many overlook. Most men believe masturbation itself is the problem. They've been told it's sinful, wasteful, or damaging, but the truth is the act itself isn't what harms you. What matters most is what you do afterward. That's where the hidden danger lies. And it's why countless men unknowingly sabotage themselves, robbing their bodies of energy and strength that could have stayed with them for decades longer. That's exactly why today I'm going to reveal the 5 things you should never do after masturbation. 5 mistakes that can shorten your stamina, age your body faster, and quietly damage your prostate health if you're not careful. Stay with me until the end, because the last mistake I'll share is the most dangerous of all, the one that has left countless men struggling silently, never realizing the true cause. But before we begin, I want to invite you to become part of this community of men who refuse to let age dictate their future. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you'll never miss another lesson designed specifically for men in their 60s and beyond. And here's something important. Leave a comment as you listen. Type 1 if you find this content helpful, or 0 if you think I need to improve and bring you something even better. I read every comment, and your feedback helps shape what we do next. And gentlemen, don't forget to tap that like button. I say this not just for the algorithm, but for you. Because when you press that like, I want you to treat it as a small ritual, an act of intention. And as you do it, here are my wishes for you. May you feel a renewed strength in your body. May you enjoy peace of mind and freedom as only a man of wisdom can, and may you carry vitality into your relationships in a way that surprises even those closest to you. This isn't just another video, it's a commitment to protect your manhood, your health, and your dignity. So, with that said, let's begin with the very first mistake. Gentlemen, I want to begin with the most common mistake I've seen across decades of practice, one I've watched countless men make, and one I myself, when younger and less disciplined, once believed was harmless. Right after release, the body feels heavy, the eyelids grow heavy, and that wave of drowsiness almost demands that you collapse into bed. It feels natural, even comforting. But here is the truth that many men over 60 don't realize. Giving in to that urge and falling asleep immediately can slowly chip away at your stamina, your erections, and even your zest for life. Let's take a closer look inside your body. After orgasm, a hormone called prolactin surges. Prolactin is the same hormone that tells the brain it's time to rest, recover, and stop seeking more. It brings relaxation. Yes, but it also slows down blood circulation. For a younger man whose vessels are still elastic and whose heart pumps with youthful force, this slowdown might not cause noticeable harm. But for a man in his 60s or 70s whose circulation is already under pressure, the consequences are magnified. Think of this moment as a crossroads. After release, your body wants to flush out metabolic waste, restore testosterone production, and reset your energy systems. But if you collapse into sleep, you rob your body of that chance. Waste lingers in the tissues longer, testosterone rebounds more slowly, and instead of feeling recharged the next day, you wake up sluggish, drained, or unmotivated. How many times have you wondered why you feel inexplicably tired after what should have been a moment of relief? For many men, the answer is not the release itself, it's the immediate surrender to sleep. I remember one patient, Harold, a retired truck driver from Kansas, 67 years old. He came to me frustrated. "Doc," he said, "I don't get it. It's just once in a while, but every time, the next day I feel like I've been run over. No energy, no drive." We ran his labs and nothing catastrophic appeared, but then I asked about his habits. He admitted that right after, he always fell asleep within minutes. That pattern, repeated over months and years, was quietly lowering his baseline testosterone and making his body adapt to a weaker standard. When he changed, when he gave himself just 10 minutes of movement before resting, he noticed within weeks that his mornings felt clearer and his energy rebounded. This is the part I need you to take seriously. Habits create baselines. If your baseline is sluggish circulation and slow recovery, your body adapts downward. Erections become weaker not overnight, but quietly, gradually, until one day you realize you can't perform the way you used to. What felt like harmless rest in the moment is, in reality, a slow erosion of vitality. The solution isn't complicated, but it does require discipline. Instead of letting sleep swallow you immediately, give yourself just 5 to 10 minutes. Take a gentle walk around the house. Stretch your arms and legs, drink a glass of water, practice deep breathing. These small acts signal to your body, finish the cycle, flush out the waste, restore balance. It's no different than a cool down after exercise. You wouldn't sprint full speed on a treadmill and then collapse to the ground without catching your breath. Why would you treat your sexual health with less respect? And here's the empowering part. Men who make this adjustment often notice the difference almost instantly. They report clearer minds in the morning, steadier energy through the day, and over time, stronger, more reliable erections. What's happening is simple biology. By extending the recovery window before sleep, you're giving your circulation a fighting chance to do its job. I tell my patients this all the time. Vitality at 60 or 70 is not about doing extraordinary things. It's about avoiding small, repeated mistakes that erode you over time. Falling asleep immediately after release may feel harmless, but it is one of those mistakes, and once you recognize it, you can break the cycle. Now, if surrendering to sleep can do this much harm, imagine the opposite extreme, when men jolt their body with something that feels refreshing in the moment, but secretly sabotages recovery in the tissues that matter most. That's where our next lesson begins. Gentlemen, the second mistake I want to address is one that hits closer to home than most men would like to admit. After release, when the body feels relaxed and perhaps even vulnerable, there's often an almost automatic pull toward comfort. Something salty, something sweet, a glass of whiskey, or maybe a cigarette to take the edge off. It feels like reward, like closure. But here's the truth. In those delicate minutes after release, junk food, alcohol, and cigarettes are not rewards. They're silent thieves that rob your body of recovery, testosterone, and stamina. Let's break down what's happening inside. After ejaculation, dopamine drops, testosterone dips. Your nervous system is recalibrating, trying to restore balance. What your body truly craves in that moment is hydration, minerals, oxygen, and time to reset. But if you hand it processed carbs, nicotine, or alcohol, you're stacking stress on top of stress. Blood sugar spikes, insulin surges, and cortisol rises. Each of these changes nudges your body away from recovery and toward decline. For a man in his 20s, the system might bounce back quickly. For a man in his 60s or 70s with slower metabolism and more fragile circulation, the damage compounds. I'll give you a real story. Frank, a 71-year-old retired mechanic from Ohio, came to my clinic exhausted and frustrated. He confessed that after every release, whether with his wife or alone, he went straight to his recliner, grabbed a beer and a bag of chips, and sometimes lit up a cigarette. It had become ritual. Within months, he noticed he was gaining belly fat, losing energy, and his desire was fading fast. His labs told the story: low testosterone, high estrogen, poor lipid profile. The very ritual he thought was comforting was silently dismantling his vitality. When we swapped the beer for a tall glass of water, the chips for a handful of almonds or blueberries, and the cigarette for deep breathing exercises, his body responded. Within 6 weeks, he told me, "Doc, I feel like a different man. My mornings are sharper. My wife notices the difference in the bedroom." I didn't think such small changes would matter, but they did. His experience echoes what I've seen time and time again. Comfort food and alcohol in that recovery window steal from you. Clean fuel and hydration give back. And let's not forget the hidden cost of guilt that often rides alongside these habits. Many men drink or smoke not just for taste, but to quiet a nagging sense of emptiness or loneliness. It's not just about calories or chemicals, it's about trying to cover an emotional wound. But here's the hard truth: alcohol, junk food, and nicotine don't heal those wounds. They only deepen them, adding shame to the cycle and further lowering testosterone. Think of it this way. Every time you choose chips, soda, or whiskey in those delicate minutes, you're signaling to your body, I don't value recovery. But when you choose fruit, water, or even a simple stretch, you're telling your body, I still respect you, I still expect you to perform. And the body responds to that respect. Blood flow improves, hormone levels stabilize, and over time your erections feel stronger, not because of a pill, but because you honored the recovery process. This isn't about perfection. I don't expect you to swear off beer for the rest of your life or never touch a slice of pizza again. But in the minutes after release, when your body is most vulnerable, that is not the time to sabotage yourself. That's the time to nourish yourself. Swap the cigarette for fresh air, trade the whiskey for water, choose almonds instead of fries. These are small decisions, but repeated over months and years. They create the difference between a man who ages fast and a man who carries strength well into his later years. I tell my patients, you can't control the number of candles on your birthday cake, but you can control how you fuel your body. And at this age, that choice matters more than ever. Now, while food, alcohol, and cigarettes are obvious physical mistakes, there's another trap just as destructive but far less visible. It doesn't come from what you put into your mouth. It comes from what you whisper inside your own mind. And that is where we turn next. Gentlemen, the third mistake may sound surprising, even counterintuitive, because for decades men have believed it was the tough and refreshing thing to do. I'm talking about taking a cold shower immediately after release. I know it sounds clean, invigorating, and even healthy. Many men I've spoken with proudly told me, Doc, I always finish with a cold shower. It wakes me up and makes me feel alive again. But here's the truth that most don't realize. For a man in his 60s or 70s, that icy shock can quietly sabotage blood flow, weaken tissues, and slowly erode the very strength you're trying to preserve. Let's step inside the body. After orgasm, your blood vessels are open wide. The tissues are relaxed. Your nervous system is in what I call a recovery phase. This is a fragile state. Your circulation is trying to bring oxygen and nutrients back to the sexual organs, to clear out waste, and to reset your hormonal balance. Now imagine slamming that delicate system with freezing water. Instantly, the blood vessels constrict. Circulation, which should be moving freely, slows to a crawl. Instead of helping recovery, the cold exposure tells your body to retreat, to conserve, and to pull blood away from the very tissues that need it most. One patient I remember well, George, a 64-year-old former high school football coach, came into my clinic frustrated. Doc, he said, I think I'm shrinking down there. My erections don't feel the same. When we looked deeper, we discovered he had a ritual. After every release, he jumped into an icy shower, thinking it was boosting his toughness. In truth, he was creating micro-stress on his blood vessels every single time. Over years, that stress translated into weaker tissue elasticity and less confidence in the bedroom. He wasn't shrinking because of age alone, he was shrinking because he repeatedly shocked his body in its most vulnerable moment. And here's the deeper issue. What feels like discipline to the mind often registers as trauma to the body. Cold showers right after release do not build resilience. They create stress that magnifies the weaknesses of aging vessels. A younger man may bounce back. An older man often does not. Over time, the result is the same complaint I hear again and again. Doc, I just don't feel the strength I used to. So what's the alternative? It's not about swearing off cold showers entirely. In fact, used at the right time, such as first thing in the morning or as part of a controlled practice, cold exposure can be beneficial, but immediately after release it works against you. That is the one window when you must treat your body gently. A warm shower, on the other hand, supports circulation. It keeps vessels relaxed, allows oxygen and nutrients to flow freely, and speeds recovery rather than halting it. Men who make this switch often notice a difference quickly. Erections feel fuller, recovery is faster, and instead of tension, they feel calm, steady, and strong. Think of it like tending a fire. If the embers are still glowing, you don't dump ice water on them, you add gentle fuel so the flame can continue. In the same way, your body needs warmth, patience, and respect after release, not shock. Gentlemen, the habits you choose in these moments either strengthen you or weaken you. And sometimes, the worst damage isn't done by what you do to your body, but by what you do to your mind afterward. Because there's a hidden enemy more dangerous than cold water, and it lives in the thoughts you allow to linger once the act is over. Gentlemen, the fourth mistake is one that you can't see in the mirror or measure with a lab test. It doesn't come from what you eat, drink, or even how you move. It comes from inside your own mind. And I'll tell you, for many men, this hidden enemy does more harm than any cigarette, pizza, or cold shower ever could. I'm talking about guilt and overthinking after masturbation. I've had men sit in my office who could barely raise their eyes to meet mine. With voices barely above a whisper, they confessed, "Doc, I still do it sometimes, but afterward I feel dirty. I feel like I've done something wrong." Those words cut deep because they reveal not just physical struggle but the weight of decades of shame piled onto a natural act. That shame doesn't come from biology. It comes from culture, from upbringing, from years of being told that self-pleasure is weakness, sin, or proof of failure. And when that shame festers in a man's heart, it becomes poison. Here's the biology of it. Every time guilt takes over, cortisol, the stress hormone, spikes. And when cortisol rises, testosterone falls. It's like a seesaw. The very hormone that fuels your strength, your desire, and your erections gets pressed down under the weight of shame. I've watched men spiral into a destructive cycle. They release, they feel guilty, the guilt creates stress, the stress lowers testosterone. And that drop in testosterone makes the urge come back stronger but emptier. So they repeat the act not out of joy or intimacy but out of pressure. The guilt deepens, the cycle continues. I'll never forget William, a 69-year-old retired accountant who came to me utterly defeated. He told me he hadn't felt like a man in years. When I asked why, he confessed that he still pleasured himself occasionally but felt crushed with shame afterward. He had grown up in a strict home where even the thought of it was condemned. The act itself wasn't hurting him, but the guilt was eating him alive, lowering his testosterone, raising his blood pressure, and draining his confidence. The real problem wasn't in his body, it was in his mind. And let me be clear, masturbation in moderation is not dangerous. The danger lies in the prison of guilt. When you turn a natural act into a battlefield in your head, your body pays the price. Testosterone falls. Erections weaken. Your sense of manhood erodes not because of biology but because of belief. So how do we break free? The answer is not indulgence but compassion. When guilt comes knocking, you must refuse to let it move in. Get up, move your body, take a walk, drink water, or sit quietly and breathe deeply. Even 5 minutes of intentional breathing can reset your nervous system and lower cortisol. Write a thought or two in a journal, not as confession but as release. These small actions tell your brain you are in control. You are not a slave to guilt. And here's the powerful truth. When men release guilt, they often rediscover vitality in every corner of life. Their erections improve not just because of better blood flow but because the mental war has ended. Their posture straightens, their eyes brighten, and their sense of dignity returns. They become lighter, freer, more confident, not because they changed their biology, but because they changed their perspective. Gentlemen, guilt is an invisible enemy. It weakens you in silence, but you don't have to carry that weight any longer. You can choose to treat yourself with the same compassion you'd offer to a friend. And when you do, you'll find that your strength, both physical and emotional, begins to return. Now I want to pause here because everything we've talked about so far, whether it's sleep, food, cold showers, or guilt, points back to one theme: choices. And sometimes the best lessons don't come from me but from you. Over the years, I've received letters, comments, and questions from men across this country, questions that range from heartfelt to humorous, from practical to downright challenging. And before we continue, I want to take a few moments to address them. Gentlemen, before we move on, I want to pause and thank you for the countless comments and letters you've left on previous videos. I read them carefully, and I can tell you your words matter. They guide me, they challenge me, and they remind me why I continue this work. Tonight, I want to share a few questions that stood out and give you the answers straight from my heart and my experience. Question 1. Dr. Prescott. I'm 73 and I still enjoy self-pleasure once in a while. Am I too old? Should I stop completely? My answer: no, you are not too old, and no, you don't need to stop. Age does not disqualify a man from intimacy with himself or with his partner. What matters is moderation and respect for your body's recovery. If you give yourself time to restore testosterone and circulation, you're not hurting yourself, you're preserving your vitality. Don't let society shame you into thinking you've passed some invisible deadline. Your body still responds, and that's a gift to honor. Question 2. Doc, I tried your advice about warm showers instead of cold. My wife laughed at me and said I was just getting soft. Am I? Gentlemen, let me smile as I answer this. Being wise enough to protect your body is not weakness, it's strength. Softness is collapsing into bad habits because you fear being teased. Strength is making choices that preserve you for the long run. If your wife laughs, let her. In time, she'll notice the results. And when she does, you won't be the one laughing. You'll be the one smiling quietly, knowing you chose wisely. Question 3, Dr. Prescott, my buddies down at the lodge say masturbation after 65 is a waste of energy. They tell me I'm draining what little testosterone I have left. Are they right? This is one of the oldest myths around. Here's the truth. A single release does not destroy your testosterone reserves. What drains you is poor recovery habits, falling asleep too soon, eating junk, or stacking guilt on top of it. Testosterone is more influenced by lifestyle, sleep, diet, and circulation than by occasional release. So the next time your buddies repeat that myth, you can smile and know you've got the facts on your side. Question 4, Doc. I'll be blunt, you're just trying to scare us into views. Erections fade because of age and there's nothing we can do. Am I wrong? I appreciate bluntness, and no, I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to tell you the truth that many doctors avoid because it takes time and courage. Erection quality does change with age, but decline is not inevitable. You can slow it, even reverse parts of it with discipline. Blood flow, hormone balance, and mental resilience are within your control. So yes, my friend, you are wrong, but I say that with respect and with hope. Question 5, Dr. Prescott, you talk about guilt a lot, but what if I actually feel fine afterward? Am I unusual? Not at all. In fact, you're blessed. Many men carry shame from upbringing, religion, or culture, and it weighs them down. If you don't, then you're free in a way that others envy. My advice, don't manufacture guilt where none exists. Instead, focus on balance, recovery, and joy. The absence of guilt is not a flaw, it's a form of strength. Gentlemen, I share these answers not just for the men who asked, but for all of you listening. Because every question reveals a struggle many others silently share. When one man speaks, he speaks for dozens who stay quiet. And by addressing these openly, we build a community where no man feels alone. Now, having cleared the air with your questions, it's time we return to the lessons at hand. Because while the mind can hold you back with shame, there is another danger that strikes even deeper, targeting the very core of your prostate health. And that, gentlemen, is where we turn next. Gentlemen, we now arrive at what I consider the most dangerous mistake of all. It's the one that so many men quietly repeat, often thinking it proves their strength, when in reality it slowly chips away at the very foundation of their manhood. I'm talking about back-to-back masturbation. On the surface, it feels harmless, one round followed by another, as if to say, I've still got it. But inside your body, something very different is happening. After one release, your testosterone and dopamine naturally fall. Your prostate, your blood vessels, and your nerves all enter a recovery state. When you push your body into another release before it's had a chance to restore, you double the strain, double the recovery time, and place your prostate under unnecessary pressure. Think of it like running a marathon and without rest or water lining up for another. Your muscles would scream, your joints would weaken, and eventually, your body would break down. The same principle applies here. The tissues in your sexual organs are not designed to withstand repeated stress without recovery. Over time, this pattern leads to inflammation, fatigue, and in many cases, prostatitis or enlargement, conditions that no pill can truly undo once they've taken hold. I recall a man named Leonard, 66 years old, a retired Navy officer. He admitted to me, with a mix of pride and frustration, that he often went for a second round immediately. Doc, he said, the first time feels strong, the second feels weak. Am I losing it? I had to tell him the truth. It wasn't that he was losing it, it was that he was demanding too much from a body that needed rest. That weak, empty feeling he noticed after the second attempt was his body's way of waving the white flag, begging for time to restore balance. And here's the cruel irony. What men think of as a demonstration of masculinity often accelerates decline. Back-to-back sessions don't prove you're strong, they prove you've misunderstood strength. True discipline is not in chasing more, it's in knowing when to stop, when to respect your limits, when to protect your future. From a medical perspective, repeated stimulation without rest inflames the prostate, overworks the pelvic nerves, and delays hormonal recovery. Testosterone rebounds slower, circulation stalls, and erections gradually lose their reliability. I've seen men spend years blaming age, when in reality it was this habit, repeated again and again, that was draining them. But there's good news. The body is remarkably forgiving when given the chance. With patience, with discipline, and with recovery windows of 24 to 48 hours, your system can restore itself. Hormones rebalance, blood flow improves, erections regain their fullness. You don't have to quit intimacy, you simply have to stop demanding more than your body can safely give. I often tell my patients, masculinity is not measured by how many times you can finish in a night. It's measured by how consistently you can show up for yourself, for your partner, and for your health over years, not moments. A man who respects his limits will outlast the one who burns himself out chasing a fleeting sense of power. Gentlemen, if there is one mistake I urge you never to repeat, it is this one. Respect your body. Give it the time it needs. Patience is not weakness, it is wisdom. And wisdom, at this stage of life, is the very thing that will keep your strength intact. And now, having walked through these 5 critical mistakes, it's time to step back and bring all the lessons together. Because what matters most is not just avoiding errors, but building a path forward that protects your health, your manhood, and your dignity for the years ahead. Gentlemen, you've now heard the 5 mistakes that can quietly drain your strength after masturbation. And I hope you understand by now why they matter so deeply. Falling asleep right away may feel harmless, but it slowly robs you of energy and delays testosterone recovery. Jumping into a cold shower might feel refreshing, but it shocks your blood vessels and weakens the very tissues that sustain your erections. Reaching for junk food, alcohol, or cigarettes may bring comfort in the moment, but it trades your vitality for fatigue and low desire. Allowing guilt and overthinking to take hold poisons the mind, raising stress and crushing testosterone. And finally, chasing back-to-back release doesn't prove strength. It chips away at it, straining your prostate and weakening your performance over time. I've spent decades as a physician sitting across from men in their 60s and 70s who wished someone had told them these truths earlier. I've seen frustration in their eyes when they realized how much of their decline could have been prevented. But I've also seen the joy, the spark of pride when men decided to change. When they chose movement instead of collapse, warm showers instead of cold, clean fuel instead of junk, compassion instead of guilt, patience instead of pushing for more. Those choices added up. Their mornings felt sharper, their confidence returned, and their intimacy with their partners blossomed in ways they thought were gone forever. Gentlemen, you may not be able to rewrite the past, but starting today, you can reshape the future. Every choice you make after release is either a slow erosion or a quiet act of strength. These 5 mistakes don't have to define you. You can build habits that restore energy, preserve testosterone, and protect prostate health. You can choose discipline over impulse, wisdom over habit, and longevity over decline. And this is where you come in. I want you to take action, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Tap that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another lesson designed specifically for men in their 60s and beyond. Leave me a comment. Tell me which mistake you've made before, and which one you're going to correct starting now. Type 1 if you're ready to take control, type 0 if you think I need to do better, and either way, I promise you I'll read it. And most importantly, gentlemen, tap that like button right now. Because when you press that button, I want it to mean more than just a digital gesture. Treat it as a promise to yourself, a declaration that you are choosing strength, discipline, and vitality. And with that click, here are my wishes for you. May your mornings be lighter with energy that carries you into the day. May your confidence grow so that intimacy is not a memory but a living part of your life. And may you carry dignity into every year ahead, proving that age is not defeat but an opportunity to show wisdom. This is not about chasing youth. It's about building manhood that lasts, energy, intimacy, and confidence that carry you forward. So go ahead, make your choice. Like, comment, subscribe, and step into a stronger chapter of your life. Because the future is still yours and your strength is waiting.